So, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests, I'm happy to welcome all of you today at our event, and it's a pleasure to see so many of you because it shows me what commitment you have to our material, and of course our theme is of relevance for you because you dedicate a big chunk of your day to it. So thank you very much for coming, all of you. Some of you might already know me. My name is Jürgen Lang, and since July 2021 I'm the managing director of EUMEPS. And as I said, it's my pleasure to welcome all of you today to our event, which is entitled EPSolutely, Innovation, Recycling, and the EPS Progress Towards Circularity. So today, you already see it in the title, will be dedicated completely to recycling and our recycling rates and our progress towards circularity. Indeed, today's event is a milestone in the history of our associations, as it is the first event that we are holding in Brussels here with commission speakers, with experts from the industry. And of course, we also have an MEP here with us, and I will introduce the guests in a second. As you know, expanded polystyrene is a versatile, reliable, and of course, sustainable material. And today we're here to showcase it live on stage with figures, and we will give you all the data. It's versatile as it is used not only in insulating houses to keep our bills low, or at least as low as possible at the time, the energy bills, but it is also used, and you will see it out there. There is a box there which is used to transport vaccines. And this is, for example, the solution how the COVID-19 vaccine was even, or how it was possible to transport the COVID-19 vaccines all over the world. It is also a very reliable material, and I'm the living proof that it is that way. Those people that follow me on Twitter know that I was on vacation last week and I fell by my bike. So this is the only thing that happened to me thanks to my EPS helmet. And it is reliable every day, saving our lives every day and of so many cyclists all around the world. And last but not least, as I said, it is a very sustainable material, and this is now up to us to showcase all to you, because it's consisting of only 98% of air, 2% polystyrene, but 100% recyclable. And we are showing this. And because of all these fantastic properties, EPS and our industry has a key role to play when it comes to transforming the global economy to a green economy and to reach the European Commission's ambitious climate targets. To do this, of course, we need to focus even more on recycling, and we have to show even more that it is possible, because not a lot of people know it already. And I keep saying this in our outreach program, that it is the best kept secret in the entire European Union that EPS is recyclable, but indeed is 100% recyclable if it's properly collected, sorted, and then recycled. And it has more opportunities to be recycled than any other material. So, of course, there is still much to be done, but our current figures, and Christoph Lindner from Conversio will present it afterwards. Our figures are very promising. For example, we have, nevertheless, we had the COVID-19 pandemic. Our recycling figures are steadily growing year after year. Also, we have countries such as Norway, Denmark, and the UK, where we have a recycling rate already above 50%. And also here, the figures are still growing. So we are in these countries, we already reached the European Union's recycling goal for 2025, 3 years ahead of time. And over there, you will see there is an example of a fish box that is made out of recycled EPS. And here it's even the best figure that we have. I don't want to give you all the secrets yet before we hear the official presentation. But in 8 countries for fish boxes, we even reach a recycling rate above 70%. This is kind of impressive. But of course, we know that our industry still has some work to do, and there is still some room to improve in other areas, such as, for example, construction, EPS construction and demolition waste. So this is a key priority for our industry, and I promise we are doing everything, and our industry is giving all that they have to ensure that also the recycling rates are growing on that. For example, our industry is developing and is commercializing innovative processes such as physical and chemical recycling to also improve so-called difficult materials like construction and demolition waste. We are also going to hear about this during today's event. But even if we are we still have areas where we have to definitely improve our performance. One thing is perfectly clear. EPS is not only improving the people's life, it is contributing to a more sustainable future. And since it is today where it's all about saving resources, I have to thank everyone that has come here, and I have to now introduce our speakers, because they are dedicating to us what I consider as the most valuable resource in the world. It's time. So we start with Klaus Ries that you see on the screen. Klaus will give us his words in a few minutes. And of course, there is the European Commission here with Laure Baillargeon, the policy officer, chief policy officer, just stand up, Laure, maybe, from the European Commission. She's in charge of our incredible work in the CPA, and very happy to have you here, Laure. And then I warmly welcome also MEP Cyrus Engerer from Malta. He is in the S&D affiliation and very committed to our material as well. Then we have Christoph Lindner from Conversio, and Conversio has critically reviewed our industry figures to ensure that the figures are objective and that they are critically reviewed and gain certain value. So I have to particularly thank you, Christoph, today, because Christoph even interrupted his vacation to be here today. So you see, he has a very tense face. There's a reason for that. Thank you very much, Christoph, for being here. And of course, there is Karl Ott from Fraunhofer, Austria. Karl will today present probably the most advanced recycling project that is currently existing, or EPS recycling project that is currently existing in the entire European Union, as it is a project of Austria, and I don't want to say too much, that involves the entire value chain, comprising the raw material suppliers, the converters, the retailers, the recyclers, the construction industry, but Karl will explain it all. So this is also why we named our event after his project, EPSolutely. And of course, last but not least, and he is standing there in the back, Sven Herpes from our newest initiative, Smart Packaging Europe. He will give us insights in what smart packaging is doing, why it is necessary, and of course, why EPS packaging is the most sustainable solution for so many applications. Just to clarify, after all the presentations, you will have time for the answers, for the questions and answers. So please note down your questions so that nothing gets lost. And again, to finally conclude, I would like to express my sincere thanks to all of you for coming here today. And I wish you a very enlightening and interesting event. I hope I was not too long. Thank you very much for coming. And now I give the floor to Klaus, who is already waiting impatiently. So Klaus, go ahead. Welcome again.
Thanks a lot, Jürgen. It's a bit strange to see yourself on a screen while you are there in Brussels, and I'm sorry I cannot be with you, but at least I hope you can hear me well. And I want to join Jürgen in thanking you to come to discuss about a material which is not typical, I think, to do, because it's normally too small. You don't want to discuss about expandable polystyrene. You want to solve the plastic issue, the recycling topic. But it's our product. We love it. You are in the room with a lot of maniacs that are fighting for their product, that believe in it, and that are convinced that it's the most sustainable packaging solution you can find in the world. And today is about proving this, and today is about addressing some of the issues we are facing in closing the loop, in really developing a full circular economy, because we're in a dilemma a little bit. The waste handling, the waste management is typically in Europe very fragmented. It's not even a job of a country, it's a job of the local administration, of the cities. So you find a huge universe of different solutions for waste collecting, for waste sorting. You don't have information where your product ends up, and we are really working hard together with the different working groups the EU has also launched, together with the different associations on a European basis and in the countries, to find out where our product is, to collect information. And as Jürgen has already explained, we are making good progress, not only in finding out where the product ends, but also collecting it and sorting it and reusing it. But it's a struggle. And of course, it also costs not only time to find all this information, but it also costs a lot of money. Investments need to be made for the sorting, for the cleaning, for the recycling, and investments love security and clarity, because you don't want to put money in areas where you are unsure what tomorrow happens with the regulation. And we are now facing a situation where a lot of creative solutions are found across Europe, not aligned, different ones in different countries, well intended by everybody, but leading to a very fragmented European market, which will make investments very difficult if we are not careful and if we are not steering actively against this. So this meeting today is also not only about informing you about the product we love. Again, we are maniacs about expandable polystyrene, but also to call for help and to call for collaboration. We cannot do this alone. We need help in the collection systems. We need help in finding the good regulations and norms to be able to use the product we are collecting and recycling it. And it cannot be that in France, this application is not allowed anymore, and in Italy they do this, and in Spain they do that. It's making our life really a misery. And I'm now in the terrible situation that my wife does not like to go out with me anymore, because I always end up in fights about plastics. I think nowadays it's easier to produce weapons for reasons we all know, unfortunately, than to produce plastics. And there is so much irrationality in this discussion that we replace plastic applications with products that clearly have a worse environmental footprint. We all know the examples. One of my favorite ones comes from construction, where we have an application, wall insulation, which is the sweet spot for our expandable polystyrene. Scientific institutes have documented a lot of times that we are the most eco-efficient solution for this application, but still people like to use wood fiber boards. And we've made an assessment in our laboratories where we assess that in a wood fiber board there is more chemicals than in a plastic board made out of EPS. That's because, as Jürgen has mentioned, it's made out of a lot of air, 98% in most of the applications, and only a little bit of plastic. Even if it looks bulky, it's only a little bit of plastic. But you are not able, even with friends, you're not able to convince them that this is the fact, that this is the scientific truth. Immediately you are accused of greenwashing, and yes, you want to sell your product, and that's why you argue like this. And I'm really afraid, and not as a manager, but as a human being, that we are making really false decisions if we are not switching on the light and assessing the products in the different applications truthfully. We've learned a lot in the industry in the past years. I remember I gave a presentation on a petrochemical conference a few years ago and spoke about sustainability and circular economy. And they looked at me like I came from Mars. Nowadays, you cannot have a single discussion about a property, without raising the topic end of life, without speaking about closing the loop. And I think it's good. And I think it's really good. But we have some miles to go. We have some investments to make. We have some regulations to streamline. And we can only do this together with you, together with your help. We want to be transparent. We are searching the dialogue with you. And we would like to ask for your collaboration on the path we have in front of us. That's what I wanted to say to introduce the meeting. I hope I didn't take too much time of you. And I hope it wasn't too inconvenient with the screen. It was a new experience for me, so at least I learned something today. would wish to be with you in discussions, and I'm offering to be available for individual deep dives if you want on certain topics at a later stage. Sven Heppes has my contact data, Jürgen Lang has my contact data, and I'm happy to be contacted by you if there is a topic which you like to discuss. Thanks a lot for your attention. Enjoy the afternoon, enjoy the presentation, and torture the presenters with your questions you may have. Have a good afternoon.
Much, Klaus. So now it's time. Laure, I give the floor to you and your presentation. Thank you very much, Laure. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. So the presentation, Jürgen, where is it shown? Is it? Yes. Super. Okay. Yes. So seems everybody can see it. So sound is good as well. Yes. So good afternoon, everybody. I think I need really many of you, despite we've gone 2 years almost exclusively online, but I will still introduce a bit myself for those that I don't know yet. So my name is Laure Baillargeon. I work at the European Commission. I work at DG GROW, which is a DG for internal market, industry, entrepreneurship, and SMEs. So on plastics, we have a core responsibility, politically speaking. So DG Environment is usually having the lead, and we are acting as a co-responsible. But for example, when it comes to the Circular Plastics Alliance, we are the responsible service. So that's for you to situate me in that world of the European Commission. So and within DG GROW, I am in the Green and Circular Economy unit. So what Jürgen asked me to do today is to give you a bit of an idea where we are at the moment in terms of circular economy policies, what is our state of play. So you will not be surprised to learn that these are the hot issues. Hot issue number one, strategic autonomy. How do we get less dependent on gas and oil imports, raw materials supply? Hot issue number two, climate change. How do we manage the green transition? So obviously at DG GROW, our topic is how do we help or how do we support industry in delivering on these hot political issues together with policymakers. Now, coming to plastics, these are things you probably, so within that broader political agenda, what are the policy objectives for plastics? I think you know that very well already. My presentation today will really take into account what are the policy targets at EU level that we know. So the ones that are confirmed. 10 million tons of recycled plastics to be used in Europe in new products by 2025. All plastics packaging to be recyclable or reusable. If it is reusable, it should also be recyclable by 2030. 55% recycling rate for plastics packaging. 30% recycled content for beverage bottles by 2030. So you name it. So you will get the presentation anyhow afterwards. So this is what I will use to discuss the circular economy policy today. Of course, you are all very much aware, I'm not revealing any EU secret here, that there are other targets being considered and being discussed, which can be simply raising ambitions on existing targets, which can be new targets. And I think everybody is well aware, waste reduction, reusability, microplastics emissions, and so on and so forth. So this I'm happy also to come back. So looking just at the target, we know are already in place. They are existing, they are confirmed. I did a little exercise. EPS, well, I thought, what are your main sectorial application? Packaging and construction. So I looked at packaging and at construction, and I tried to put numbers on the targets. So for packaging, you will get also, so I will not go now into the detail, but let's say at the moment, we have around 1.5 million tons of recycled content in packaging. With the target of the CPA, so the 10 million tons, it should increase to 3 million tons in theory by 2025. And now if I'm trying to calculate what a future mandatory target on recycled content of 30% by 2030 would mean, it could mean something around 6-7 million tons of recycled plastics being used or reused, as you wish, into packaging applications. So, well, that just to trigger a thought, how would EPS potentially cope with that? And if we look at the recycling rates, it looks a bit better because we're now around 46%, target being for 2030, 55%. But of course, you have to take into account that the measurement points and other calculation details may actually change the ambition without changing the figure. So I would say that's a bit where we are. And when it comes to EPS, I think Jürgen really said we are already some 100% recyclable. So good for you, because it seems that will have to be the new rule. So looking now at construction, I did a bit of the same exercise. I will not go now into the details, but again, also construction is really an area I think EPS is not really what is providing here the bulk of the story, but also construction is a sector that is already using a lot of recycled content. If you look at targets, obviously there is a need to improve. Even if you only look at the CPA scenario, so how the CPA have estimated they could reach their 10 million tons target, it's still very moderate what is asked from construction in principle, but well, still you can see this is some extra efforts are ahead. So I just put that on a graph just to have an idea. That's for all sectors. What you see is that, so what you have in orange is the target for 2025, and what you have in the other color is the recent past. So especially for uptake of recycled plastics, there is a high, a bit of a gap. And this is also, I think, what was a bit communicated in a recent study by Plastics Europe, where they were saying, well, we believe if nothing changes based on what we can see, so it's an independent study by Systemic called Reshaping Plastics. I'm sure many of you have heard about it. It was paid for by Plastics Europe, and saying, well, there are real efforts being done, but if we compare with the Circular Plastics Alliance target, it's not yet there either. So, well, you know, you may think, okay, very nice, but this is this could look a bit depressing, you know, or a bit negative. Like there are a lot of efforts going on, but it's not enough. So what is needed to get there? That's a bit the question. And what was the reply brought by the Circular Plastics Alliance to this question? I think what the Circular Plastics Alliance showed in their various reports is that the targets are achievable, that there is willingness to achieve the targets, but it takes something, and it takes a systemic change. And you will see the quotes. I'm not reading them now, but I really like it. It's the most recent report of the CPA of February 2022 saying, well, yes, it really takes a systemic change of everybody in the system. So really from collection to sorting, to recycling, to manufacturers and brands. And I like this sentence saying the actions of any one part of that system impacts the system's ability to deliver as a whole. So that was really their philosophy. And also the philosophy that to reach the ambitions on, so the high ambitions on recycled content, it's essential to create the conditions for a stable supply. So you need to create the conditions for a stable supply of quality recycled material. So that was really, I would say, the narrative of the CPA. So I will go now in the presentation through the different bits. So, you know, what is that systemic change about? Well, let's take it building block by building block. Sorting, recycle, collection and sorting, recycling, recycled content. Let's look a bit at each and every building block and see what the Circular Plastics Alliance has done or what they have said should be done. And that was quite an interesting journey. And I would just go through the 4 building blocks of that systemic change. One thing I wanted to say before getting there is that I don't want you either, because of course, when you present, you know, the current state of play and the targets, you may sometimes get an impression, okay, not enough has been done. Whereas I would like also to convey the message that I think the Circular Plastics Alliance has worked much together. And this is what is shown on this slide. It's a bit small now, I think, for you, but you will get it. They really worked a lot. They actually delivered everything they had committed to deliver in their declaration in terms of, you know, concrete work to be done together. Now, there was also COVID, as for anything else. And they really also got to an extensive coverage of the value chain. I think the only part we are missing at the moment are the national authorities in charge of waste management. So, you know, that's to also say it's not like nothing is happening, but it's also that the ambitions are so high that more is still needed. So just now I will go really quickly through the 4 building blocks because I don't want to, you know, to make everybody fall asleep in an early afternoon. So building block number 1, recyclability. So I think the key contribution of the Circular Plastics Alliance in that domain was to take a public commitment. Yes, we want to commit ourselves to develop standards and guidelines that will ensure 26 priority products in Europe, plastics products are recyclable. These plastics products, they account for 60% of plastic waste collected. So that's actually a lot. And EPS is, I would say, the key EPS applications are there. So if you want, so all these products, they account for 18 million tons of plastic waste generated every year in Europe. So potentially available for recycling if they get collected. That's certainly enough to reach the 10 million tons, but you need to collect. So I think that's a key point. And we decided to follow up on this with a standardization request to SEN. Yes, I have the slide, that's really good. We decided to follow up with a standardization request to SEN. So basically we're asking SEN and SENELEC, the European standardization organizations, to develop the design for recycling standards for these 26 products, because sufficient background work has been done. I think it's a major contribution. What you see here on the slide, I'm saying quickly, because you will get it, is that this is a request for standards that we will not directly use for legislation. What you see on the next slide is that we could decide later on, if we think as an institution the standards delivered are good enough, we could decide to use them later for the legislation, but that would be a new process. This is not something that we are requesting now. So just to clarify, we are not now requesting work that we want to use immediately for the next legislation. Okay, this is really work to make the market function better. But if it's good, if there is a consensus, this is really right, nothing would prevent the Commission from using these new standards also for regulation in the future. Okay, but we need another process, another democratic process. Okay, there is nothing hidden here. Second building block, I will be a bit quicker maybe. Collection and sorting, I think there what the CPA said and what they showed, and you will not be surprised, is collection, sorting. Give us a recyclable feedstock, we will give you the recycled plastics. But the added value, in my opinion, of the analysis was to show really the numbers, the quantities, how much you need to sort more. And for this, I invite you to read the untapped potential report that is called the roadmap. That's really interesting. And we are also requesting new standards on quality of sorted waste in the same request, but I can come to that later. Now, third building block, recycling. Here again, I think what the CPA did well was to show the needs for new capacities. So if you want to reach ambitious targets, yes, this is doable, but this is how much you need to invest into new capacities to deliver it. And that was an interesting exercise. A lot was said also around technology, but I don't enter now into the details. And last but not least, building blocks, the recycled content. On this, I invite you maybe to take a look to the recycled content report of the CPA, well written. We also intend to request standards on quality of recycled plastics. We think it's an important enabler potentially for the market, be it characterization of recycled plastics, be it quality assessment. I'm happy to come back to this. And the last thing, we have repeatedly also called for voluntary commitments on recycled content to try match our 10 million tons target. So, you know, it's something to have a market that reaches 10 million tons, but it's also something to have voluntary commitments by industry to reach these 10 million tons, maybe with certain conditions, but at least there is a clear commitment. So that's a bit where we are. That's just a recap slide with the enablers on the left. Yes, I just added, but this I will go quickly. There is one thing that was not captured in that, you know, little journey in that systemic change, which is monitoring. I think the Circular Plastics Alliance did a great work in terms of establishing the rules for a first ever EU-wide monitoring system on recycled plastics. Everything is ready to start. So the last thing that is needed now is actually recyclers and converters to go into the system and report their data. So it's something to have a beautiful system, but of course then you need to populate it with data. So that's obviously the next step. And just as a conclusion, I would say that overall, this alliance has worked quite well together. I think they've delivered everything they had said they would. But you know, now it's really a bit of a turning point. Everything has been said. Now it's about action. It's about market impact, and therefore it's also about engaging with national systems where waste is being collected and where waste needs to be sorted. And that's obviously one of the key elements for the future. I think that's it. There are contact details here, so thank you very much for
Yeah, thank you very much, Laure. I think everyone enjoyed the interesting presentation that you gave, and you gave a deep insight in the work of the Circular Plastics Alliance, where we are all very committed, of course, since we are one of the members that are there since 2019 already. And since we are very committed to recycling, sorting, and all the other issues, because we want to solve it and we want to keep our, as you said it, our material in the market, we founded Smart Packaging Europe, which is dedicated to our packaging applications, since we are facing, I don't want to name member states, but then don't do naming and shaming, but there are certain member states who do not like our material as much. And since we are aware that we have to prove there that we are the best solution for so many things, we founded Smart Packaging Europe, and I'm very glad that today also Sven Heppes from BASF is here, who is our spokesperson for Smart Packaging Europe and is doing all the outreach with me together. Thank you very much, Sven. And Sven will give us an insight what Smart Packaging Europe is been doing and what has been done in the past and what we want to do in the future. Thank you, Sven.
Yeah, also from my side, a very warm welcome. Yeah, as I said, you might also ask yourself the question why founding an initiative, Smart Packaging Europe, that is really dedicated to EPS packaging. The reason, yeah, there are multiple reasons. Some of them are highlighted here on that slide. So the environment for packaging applications, and especially EPS, was in general, a little bit difficult. Yeah, we had problems with one-sided media attention, for example. Also, some regulations. I would just name the SUPD, where we were named as the one single polymer, and especially also falsely claimed because the applications that were mentioned there are not the typical EPS packaging applications. I want to elaborate on that a little bit on the next slide. Yeah, there was also political attention in general, but also a general view in the society. Yeah, that was a little bit, or still is a little bit hostile towards plastics. So what to do? Because maybe you had the chance here, because we collected some typical examples for EPS packaging, and I just want to show you in a short video what the basically 3 typical EPS applications are all about, and the video should now work exactly. So we already found out that especially in the COVID-19 pandemic, EPS boxes were used several times to ensure safe and cool transport of the vaccines. Also, fish boxes are one of our key applications, but also white goods to transport E&E devices safe and sound. And yeah, these are the typical EPS applications that also Smart Packaging Europe has in the focus and is defending. I just named or touched also confusing aspects, because EPS is often confused with plastics that are in fact not EPS. And as Smart Packaging Europe, we wanted to give a clear picture what is EPS and what is not EPS. You can find this flyer online on our website, but also we have printed some of them on the table, where also all the other statements, Smart Packaging Europe and Europe statements are located. So if you're interested, please take them, because we think that we need to educate also and be more active also in terms of communicating what EPS and EPS packaging is all about. And this is one of the measures. And also go to our platform, smartpackagingeurope.eu. There you find also more additional information, also a short explainer video that highlights more applications and important facts. And as already stated, in all these applications, we are in fact 100% recyclable and widely recycled in Europe. The industry is also heavily engaged in projects that even go beyond, especially in the when it comes to chemical recycling. The industry set up several projects with also member companies, both of Smart Packaging Europe, and also EUMEPS pilot projects in chemical recycling to really show that the industry is capable of producing chemically recycled EPS. And there I put just 2 examples together with our members, Vatdal Plast from Norway and Storopak. We as BASF made pilot projects to show that there are applications like fish boxes, and this has really a future. And the market need is also there for such kind of project. I just wanted to conclude because Smart Packaging Europe, it's not only the industry, the EPS industry. What is crucial and one of the goals of Smart Packaging Europe is also to attract the end users of EPS. And we were quite successful, and we will continue to do so. We have gained EUTECMA, which is a company from Germany that uses EPS for pharmaceutical applications, such as also COVID-19 vaccine boxes, but also others. And they really, I can only say it, they really love our product. They love EPS, and they want to continue using EPS. So they are also heavily engaged when it comes to topics in the circular economy, for example. They prepared also very nice communication packages, in part also together with us, and we're really happy that we have them on board. And this is also our strategy, not only to compile the industry, but also make other companies that are end users of EPS as a part of our initiative. And with that, I'd like to conclude. As I said, if you want to get more additional information, follow us at our social media channels on Twitter and LinkedIn, and of course also more additional information on our platform. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much, Sven. And now it's time for the figures. Christoph. Christoph will present us the most recent figures of EPS recycling all over Europe, and I have already given you some insight before, but Christoph has all the details, and thank you very much one more time that you interrupted your vacation for our event. Thank you very much, Christoph.
Yeah, before we see the slides here on the left, thanks Jürgen for the warm welcome. I won't tell you the feedback from my wife, and I told her that I will make a cut of some days of the vacation, but I'm still married, so no. Yeah, thank you for the invitation and having the opportunity to share the newest findings about the level of circularity of EPS in Europe. I think we had 2 very good presentation before we now reflect the data of EPS recycling, because we saw the entire plastics world, and we saw in the second presentation we saw the applications. And what I want to say with this, you are with EPS in a niche market. We talk about 30 million of plastics waste per year, and we talk about 500,000 tons of EPS waste. It's about 1.5 to 2%. And this makes it challenging for the EPS industry to find the good solutions, to convince also the actors along the value chain, like waste management companies like EPR systems, and also recyclers, to invest and to step in to the EPS market. I think that's very important to consider. Just to give you an example, for packaging, we talk about 18 million tons of plastic packaging waste per year, but we talk about 350,000 tons of EPS. So we have to develop clever and appropriate ideas and systems really to be successful. And Jürgen, you wrote on the report, the EPS industry's journey toward circularity. 2 points on a journey. We never know how long the journey will take, and we never know where we end up in such a journey. What I mean, we heard more from your targets from CPA. I think it's very challenging for the entire industry, not only for the EPS. And nobody knows exactly who's today in the room if we really make it 10 millions and if we make an appropriate or an number for EPS till 2025. But what we know, we all are very motivated, and this will now be reflected in the results, which we see also in a comparison to previous years like 2017 and even to 2009. Just one comment to Conversio and to my person. My name is Christoph Lindner. I am the general manager of Conversio, and we accompany your industry, not only EPS, also the polyolefins and PETs and many others and associations within that journey. And many of the data Laura showed on her slides are, let's say, Plastic Europe data which were being developed in our circularity report. So again, happy to show it, and back to the report, to the progress report. I think it was the first time that your group did it by itself, and I can tell you it was excellent work. For maybe a not professional consultant, but for people who had, I think, a deep insight into EPS market. We did a critical review, and I think the result is that you did really an excellent job. We had a discussion about one or the other country like UK, where we think the waste quantities are probably a little bit higher than shown in the statistics, but all in all, I think it reflects the reality very well. Now I try to go ahead. Okay. Yeah. Let's talk about numbers, and let's talk about the situation. I've already mentioned it. We have collected in 2019 around 500,000 of EPS waste, share of around 140 food packaging, white goods 200, and other packaging waste like for medical purposes 30,000 tons, construction waste around 50, and demolition waste 87. So construction waste is coming from the installment process during the phase of erection of a building. Demolition waste is end of life waste after 50, I mentioned, sometimes even after 100 years. The situation in Europe is that we bring about 165 already to the sorting plant, and share of around 150 are recycled. On the other hand, when we talk about circularity, we still burn or use the energy at least for 230,000 tons, and disposal is 120,000. Let's give you a short comparison to other polymers, and then you will see that this is also the case maybe for the polyolefins or for polystyrene or even in some areas for PET. I think the biggest point we have to struggle with and we have to fight against is still the disposal. If you calculate this, it's around 25% of EPS which is still put on landfill. It's not used at all. No energy use, no material use. I think that's a very important point. Then let's talk about the recycling figures. And yeah, some people says figures are always a little bit boring, but in my eyes, figures explain very well the story and the situation. And what we see here again, the majority of EPS waste is generated by packaging. It's around 75%, 25% is coming from construction. While packaging is usually a material from more or less the same year, maybe some multi-use packaging you can use maybe even 2 years, but usually it's a short life product. While EPS construction, especially from demolition, it's 50 years old, even sometimes up to 100 years, at least in the future. Then we have the recycling quantities here. You see we have different technologies for mechanical recycling. We can just, let's say, clean and grind with EPS material and then compact it again with some adhesives and make a new material out of it. So this is recycled as EPS, and EPS stays as EPS. The second one is recycled as polystyrene. So it means you have a degassing process for that material, and then you have again a polystyrene. You can expand it, but you can use it also as a classical rigid PS, for instance, for clothes hangers, boxes, or other materials. And to a small extent, we have also recycling as lightweight fill in stones for building. I know from some activities in Austria, but also in other countries. So all in all, we have a recycling rate of 30% compared to plastics overall. We have 34, so we are a little bit lower. And you see already the big challenge is not the EPS packaging. I will give you further comments to EPS packaging and maybe some approaches to be more successful even here in the future. The challenge is the EPS construction. And this is, again, why we have very old material, but this material is usually not sorted after use. You have also this material combined with other materials, with minerals, with glue and other isolation materials. So this material is today mainly ending up in energy recovery or in landfill. The EPS construction quantities you see here is mainly derived from installation material. Let's talk about EPS packaging. I think here we see a little bit higher recycling rates of 38%. Packaging compared for entire plastics, it's around 42. So also here we have to do some homeworks to achieve, let's say, the level of the plastic industry entirely. But I think we are on a very good track. And I will show you further on. I think still the stones we have to move away to reach the 50%, which I think it's the pledge for the future. Energy recovery also 38%, and still 24% is put on landfill. I think that's a very good point. We have differentiated here EPS household packaging, which is around 40%, and 60% is commercial packaging. What you see, the recycling rate in commercial packaging is really very high, almost 56%, and maybe today already 60%. And the reason is this material is collected after its use, it's separate, collected, and then brought directly more or less to a recycler without any sorting plant. The EPS household packaging, why? It's ending up very often in mixed plastic collecting systems like a yellow bag and yellow bins. And again, here we touch the issue I have mentioned at the beginning. In a yellow bag, the distribution or the share of EPS is maybe 1 or 2%. What does the sorter do? He is focusing on polyolefins and PET to reach his goals. And this is a challenge here that either we have to convince the EPR systems also to sort your EPS in the household packaging systems, or we have to establish really separate systems like we have, for instance, in Germany, but also in other countries, where we collect also this green material on waste stations by municipalities or also by private organizations. So I think this is one of the key issues to improve, in my eyes, the situation for packaging, really to increase the situation for household packaging. Also, we still have to convince the consumers as well, because they put a lot of material still in a gray bin, so it's ending up in the residual household waste, where this material is just again burned or brought on landfill. So we go home today with a homework to establish systems for household packaging to be successful and to reach our pledges in the future. Also, if I look here in food and white goods, this is another differentiation. You see 54% for white goods. It's more linked with the commercial side, and 74% for food packaging. And the success in food packaging is mainly driven also from fish boxes, for instance. Then we have a couple of stories, and I think this is good to read, but that we see a lot of very positive approaches in different countries of Europe, like in Portugal, in Denmark, and also Northern countries, in Greece, for also in the Netherlands, especially on fish boxes. And here we have very good logistic systems where materials is coming back, collected separately, and then brought to recycling. Let's have a short look to EPS construction before we come to the pledges. The quantity, it's also quite low. I think our impression is always EPS is big because we have high volumes, but low densities and low weights, and that's the point sometimes if you look to construction waste. But compared to PVC, for instance, we have about 2 million tons on PVC waste in a construction waste stream, but only 135 on EPS. Our eye sometimes sees a different view, but these are the reality in terms of quantity. And here you see again the challenge: recycling 10%, energy recovery 66, and still 24 put on landfill. And even more clear it's getting if we look to installation waste and demolition waste. Our focus today is really on installation waste, where the craftsmen, installers collect this material and bring it to recycling. I think we still have a high potential to increase it, but you see on the other hand, demolition waste, we still have to do something. It's on 1.4, maybe today 2%. Here, I think the approach is to develop further technologies. I think you have already with PS Loop already a technology available, but this technology has to develop further on in terms of technology, but also in terms of capacity, and also in terms of a business plan and a supply chain. Then a couple of slides, and I would like maybe to jump a little bit over it, not to use too much time for the presentation, and also have time for further discussion. You see very different situations regarding recycling and also regarding packaging and construction, like Germany up to down to Portugal. The smaller countries, these are larger countries for sure with highest quantities. But let's go then to the recycling rate. You see here also countries like Norway with already 50, 60%, 70%, and countries like Finland and Poland, we are still down in 20. So we have to learn from each other. I think this is also a learning from this study, and we have to see where are the successful countries, where are the less successful, and what is the story behind the success. Why are some countries let's say, very successful? And one of the informations again is that these countries with high rates have separate collecting systems also for household EPS waste. Yeah, this shows a little bit the story. We came from around 26 up to around 30, and now in the future we would like to achieve around 50% and more. But you see also some countries, as Jürgen mentioned, have already achieved, and others are far behind. This is a total EPS recycling rate. Here you see a little bit the developments from last year. Again, we did the first survey for EUMEPS in 2009. You see, all in all, EPS is a quite stable market with slight increase rates also for demand and for waste, and consequently also increasing recycling rates. Here, it's a picture for packaging and also for construction waste flow. You see always positive rates for recycling, but I think, as mentioned in one of the pre-presentation, we still need some more efforts to achieve our goal. But again, a very positive and very motivated team, I think, and a very motivated industry. Yeah, I think the challenge is a bit like we have to move, let's say, all of us in the value chain to go forward. It means from the producer to the recycler to the waste management companies to get this picture together, inclusive also the demand side. Now, I think you are probably already expecting what are the pledges and the promises from EUMEPS and the EPS industry. We expect for 2025 around 560,000 tons EPS collected, and Euro pledges, we would like to recycle 250 or 257,000 tons. This is a strong increase compared to today. It's more than 100,000 tons more. We have to keep in mind this is 2019. Meanwhile, we made a step forward. We have not actual figures for 2022, but again, I think it's a challenge. But if we move forward with all activities, it means behavior of consumers, separate collecting systems, but also developing of technology for construction, we have a chance at least to come close to that target. EPS packaging, we would like to increase from 140 and 185. I think this is a target which is very reasonable, and I see already maybe this success in 2025. While EPS construction, this is from 13,000 to 72,000. And I think here we have to stick our heads together how we can, let's say, achieve it. PS loop is one good solution, but this technology again has to be further developed, the capacity has to be increased, and we have also to prepare the supply chain for that plans to reach that goal. And nevertheless, we will see it later on, we have to convince all craftsmen and installers that they put the material which is getting lost during installation process to a collecting system and to a recycler. Here again, this is a reflection what I think the company said in the different countries. Sometimes it was even better. I go directly maybe to packaging. Here we see the recycling rate, say, assume in the different countries. If we take the results from the interviews, it was even 60% recycling rate for EPS and a quantity of almost 240,000. While when we see the figures and the results for construction, that the estimations of members in the different countries, it's a bit lower. And this, I think, showing also the level of the challenge of the pledge, on the one hand for packaging and on the other hand for construction. Everything, I think, it's very well involved and integrated into the European Green Deal and the strategy and the CPA. I think here I have not to repeat it anymore. But here you see again, it's 257,000 tons. How is it based? 50% of EPS packaging, 80% of EPS construction cutoffs, 90% of cutoffs of civil engineering, and 27% of EPS from demolition. Last one again is the highest hurdle probably and the highest challenge. Yeah, again, I think also the presentations showed where we come from and what we would like to achieve. We are coming from a linear economy. Now we are more to reuse and recycling. And finally, we would like to have a circular economy where all the raw materials are based on recyclates or alternative for fuel-based materials. Why is recycling so important? If you look to the right side, if we use recyclates to produce new EPS products, we can lower the CO2 footprint by 68%. And I think this is an extremely high rate, which helps to stop climate change and yeah, helps to lower the CO2 output significantly. It's my last pictures. Here you see how is it handled in the different countries. The green is where we have already separate systems established, but not only separate, it's sometimes also EPS mixed with other plastics or even with paper and other streams. But you see, we have already many countries where we have a high developed collecting systems, but still room for improvement. Yeah, critical review, Jürgen, you asked at the beginning again. I think the survey was done very well and reflects the reality. On the other hand, it shows where we are at the moment. And it shows also the gap we have to make and the journey we have to go together. And at that point, I would like to thank you for listening, for sharing the ideas. And I wish you all the best, yeah, again, for the journey to go on the right track to fulfill the commitments. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Christoph. I think we have seen that we have already achieved something, but as I said in my speech in the beginning, there is still some room to improve. And now I'm very happy to show you a best practice case from Austria. Karl will present the EPSolutely project from Austria, and give the floor to Karl. Thank you very much.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks, Jürgen, for the invitation. I'm really happy to be here to have the possibility to introduce our research project, which we started by the beginning of this year, by January 2022. Yeah, we prepared our research proposal during the last year, where also the name EPSolutely was created. And I'm really proud and happy that the name also found its way to your event. My name is Karl Ott. I'm the head of intralogistics and material management at Fraunhofer Austria in Vienna. And today I want to give you an overview about our research project, about the first results we have gained so far. If it works. But let me start with a short introduction of Fraunhofer. I don't know if Fraunhofer is known for you. Basically, the Fraunhofer Gesellschaft is pretty large in Germany, with more than 30,000 employees in more than 75 institutions and research units with very different heterogeneous focuses. And we in Austria are much smaller, with about 150 employees, dealing mainly with production and logistic management, also with artificial intelligence and advanced data analytics. So how is Fraunhofer located? Let's explain it with this slide. Basically, we act as an interface between the industry on the one hand, you can see it on the right hand side of the picture schematically, and the basic research on the other hand. Fraunhofer tries to transfer the need for new innovations, for new solutions development from the right part, from the industry to the research. So we have close cooperations with the technical universities. In our specific case, the Technical University of Vienna, and we try to develop new solutions to bring back new solutions to the implementation in the industry. This is basically our doing and our daily business. Yeah. Now I want to come to the project, to EPSolutely itself, and give you an overview about the current status of our project. I think meanwhile EPS is well known. I think I can go through the slide very fast. Sven already mentioned in the last months and years there was much of more or less negative public relations in the media. Today I want to do the other way around. We want to show how a circular economy for EPS can be doable. There's still some obstacles to occur, but we are pretty confident to solve those issues during our project. Sven also showed some examples. You can see here also some pictures of the different use cases of EPS, starting with insulation in the building industry, but also for food industry and other, for example, white goods industries for packaging, which is also a very important issue. So what is the initial situation? Mr. Linde from Conversio showed, I would say, many figures to use. I won't go into the last details, but what is really interesting from my point of view is that EPS, as you mentioned, is a niche market in the all over plastics industry, and Austria is a very small country in this niche market in this project. So the amount of EPS is not that high, but I think it doesn't matter because it is all about the technologies, the solutions, and the concepts which shall be transferred to other countries within the European Union in the future. And therefore, it doesn't matter if it's if the pilot project is done in Austria and Germany or in any other country of the European Union. So yeah, let's keep with the problem. So I think yeah, Mr. Lindner already showed you some of the figures, but we have the issue that the recycling split is not that high as it could or should be in the different specific yeah, groups in the EPS sector, for example, packaging and insulation material. The objective is to gain a much higher split for recycling in terms of a circular economy, not recycling in terms of downcycling for lightweight concrete, for example. We want to bring EPS in a circular economy. Basically, we are focusing on 3 different process streams, starting with the first one, the packaging waste, where we have about 6,400 tons per year in Austria, with a recycling split of roughly 60%. Those almost 60% are mainly downcycled for, as I mentioned, lightweight concrete used for the floors, for example. And the objective is also to bring all of those downcycled materials, as I mentioned, into a circular economy. So this would be the first very important process stream, the packaging waste. The second one, the construction waste, which means the cut-offs at the construction site when the isolation, the facade is built. You have cut-offs, and this material in principle is clean. If there is no glue or cement on it, you can do a mechanical recycling pretty easily. But sometimes, or basically often, it's also used for downcycling for lightweight concrete in this specific case. So also in this case, the objective is to collect this waste, to develop logistical concepts and to bring it into a circular economy. And the third, the most interesting process stream is the demolition waste. Why the most interesting? Because till 2017, there was a flame retardant, HBCD, which is now not allowed anymore, and there is a law for destruction. So the materials which are on the facade must not be recycled. Currently, they needed to be used in a thermal processing. But colleagues from Germany, from Fraunhofer IVV, developed a solution, the Creosolve process, which allows to split the HBCD from the polystyrene in order to also come to a circular economy for this third process string for the demolition waste in the EPS sector. So we have some other challenges here. For example, the splitting of the different fractions. For example, you have anchors, you have armor rings on the facade, you have cement, and all those different fractions need to be split in the first step before the Creosolve process can take place. In the optimal case, in the pilot factory in Terneuzen, the PS Loop factory or institution which deals with this HBCD solvent-based recycling. Let's have a look at our project consortium. As it was already mentioned by Jürgen, we have set up a consortium all over the value chain, starting with the EPS production, coming to the processing of the EPS, and then we have our 3 different strings again. So the construction side, which is one important issue where waste occurs, the cutoffs. We have the demolition with the HBCD materials occurring, and we have the packaging stream also with the producers of goods, for example, white goods like washing machines, fridges, and also the retailer process with the wholesaler in the furniture sector. In the next step, the collection, transport, and disposal is a very crucial part of our project, a very interesting part, how to separate, to split the different fractions in order to have the preparation for the recycling in the last step. On the one hand, mechanical recycling, but on the other hand, as I mentioned, for example, the HBCD recycling solvent-based with this innovative solution from the Fraunhofer IVV. So as you can see, a very big consortium with, I think, some of the companies may be known from your side, I'm not sure. At least they're well known in Austria. We are the project leader in this project, and as you can see, we have a lot of interested associated partners as well, who committed to have also interest in this project. So how is the project structured? What is our methodology to reach our goals? We have the classical project management and their communication, public relations. It's not that important, but what is really important are the work packages 2 to 6. Currently, we are staying at work package 2, the analysis of the as-is situation, where we have a closer look at all the restrictions, the requirements from the industry, from the internal stakeholder in the project, but also the external stakeholder outside our project consortium. As well, it's very important for us to categorize and quantify the different material streams in the EPS sector, split after our 3 strings: packaging, construction, and demolition waste, but also differentiating them in theoretical amounts of EPS and practical gainable amounts, because as Mr. Lindner presented, there are pretty high amounts in the theory, but in practice we face the problem that partly the EPS amounts get collected with other fractions and can't be split from the other fractions, and therefore basically it's lost, and this is currently one of the biggest challenges. But I will come to this a bit later. In the next step, we will start by the beginning of the summer, the definition of the use cases based on the work package 2, based on the analysis of the as-is situation. We will define specific use cases as a basis for the most important working package, the work package 4, where we want to develop new solutions, new concepts in the logistical sector, new technology solutions, new methods, and bringing them together in order to gaining new solutions in the defined use cases, integrating those concepts and building the basis for the work package 5, where we want to do a pilot implementation of the specific technologies, concepts, and methods we have developed then so far, and we will also do optimization activities within this project. As I mentioned before, from my point of view, it doesn't matter which country is the first mover with dealing with the circular economy for EPS. It's important to share the information, to share the developed results to the other countries, to stay in the close contact with other countries. For example, we have also had workshops with EUMEPS members in order to get an understanding for the situation in other countries within the European Union, to build the basis for a overall European solution. So let's have a closer look at the current situation as it is in Austria today. Let's have a look at the packaging. We have basically two separate topics. On the one hand, the separate collection for the EPS packaging in specific collection centers and disposal service providers, which is the better option, because in this case we see the EPS is collected just the material in big bags and can be processed pretty easy compared to the non-separated collection, because this collection brings the problems I mentioned before. You have the residual bulky commercial waste where everything, mineral components and other components are put together, and from this time on it's basically not possible to split the different fractions, because it's still not manageable in a manner that it's also economically possible. Here you can see one example from Lavu, which is also part in the project. This is one of the 9 states in Austria. It's Upper Austria. In this state, we have 180 collection centers. So I would say it's roughly within a few kilometers for each inhabitant in this state, and makes it pretty easy to bring the EPS and other waste types to this collection center and do the separated collection, which is as I mentioned, the best scenario, which brings us in this situation, we have sorted EPS packaging for the next step. How does the situation on the construction side look like? As you can imagine, you have the insulation, the facade, which is mounted on the walls, but you have the different cutoffs, for example, here in the window sector, and those cutoffs are also to be collected. Currently, those cutoffs are used, as I mentioned, for the lightweight concrete. So it's a recycling, but basically a downcycling. Currently, we are also talking to different facade builders in order to get a feeling how big the split on waste on the construction side actually is. So we want to see how big this percent of waste which is created is in reality. Currently, it's done on a very informal base. They have the facade builders have contacts to the screed producers for the lightweight concrete, and they give their information. They have a few cubic meters of EPS, and they pick it up and make their product in the next step. So now let's have a look at the deconstruction, the demolition, where we face the topic with the ETICS, so the external thermal insulation composite systems, where we have anchors, where we have armor rings, where we have cement, facade, and the EPS. And furthermore, we face the topic of the HPCD, the flame retardant, which is not allowed to be recycled currently without a solvent-based solution. As you can see in those pictures, which was a deconstruction which took place, I think, in January this year, there is also no very efficient process to do this deconstruction. So you have the sorting grab, and with this sorting grab, the EPS is put down, or it's broken down the wall, and it falls directly into the container, and this container directly goes to the energy recovery. So there is no recycling currently. All of those EPS on the facade is lost, and that's the big issue currently in this deconstruction site. And as you may imagine, the insulation of houses started, I would say, 40, 50 years ago, and day by day, more of those old buildings get demolished and deconstructed, and therefore more and more material, more EPS with HBCD inside is in the market, would be in the market. Basically, it's not in the market because currently we face this problem. All of this EPS goes directly to the energy recovery, and therefore it's lost. So what is done currently in terms of recycling? But as I mentioned, basically it's not recycling in terms of a circular economy. It's done a downcycling. So as you can see here, this would be an example from a lightweight concrete producer. They get the packaging material, put it into a shredder, and on the last step, it's the mechanical recycled EPS, and then it goes to the next step, to the lightweight concrete. So what is the aim of the project in terms of technologies, in terms of EPS recycling? Basically, we have different possibilities to do this recycling. The easiest one is the direct recycling at the EPS processor, which means it's a classical mechanical recycling, bringing the EPS also back to the block forms, which are the basis for the next step, the cutting, for example, for the insulation plates, or also for packaging. Another possibility would be the mechanical recycling and the extrusion afterwards. So there would be an intermediate step with the compaction of the material, makes it a lot cheaper in the transport, because as it was already mentioned, 89% air, transport of 89% air and 2% polystyrene is not the most efficient way to do it. So there could be a compaction directly at the construction site, for example, and then in the next step, if the material is sufficient clean, then we can do the mechanical recycling and the subsequent extrusion. And coming now to the HBCD topic, the topic with the flame retardant, which isn't allowed anymore. As I mentioned, our colleagues at Fraunhofer developed a solvent-based recycling solution, Creasolve, which is also part of the PS loop, the plant in the industrial scale in Terneuzen. And this solvent-based process allows us to also recycle the HBCD EPS in terms of a circular economy and bring also this HBCD material back to the loop. Yeah, concluding, you see there are different possibilities to do the recycling, but yeah, still other obstacles to fulfill the logistical concepts, for example, the collection, the sorting before. So we have different requirements as well. Therefore, we conducted many workshops, on-site visits in the three streams you can see here exemplarily, to gain an overview about all the restrictions, the requirements from the industry. For example, the grade of cleanliness, for example, the technologies which can be used for the splitting of the different fractions on different EPS components. Also, questionnaires in order to get more transparency about the cutoffs at construction sites, which is also a topic which will be finished within the next weeks. So as you can see, many different issues to tackle. It's not just the classical recycling. It's basically many steps before and around the recycling process. Yeah, I want to give an overview about a few challenges and also approaches. Let's start with the packaging stream. As you can see here, it's a bit small, written, but I tried to explain it. Labels, for example, on the fish boxes, on pharmaceutical boxes, lead to a problem in the recycling. So all of the impurities make it more difficult to recycle EPS in the next step, especially in the mechanical recycling, but also in the solvent-based recycling, because the process gets more and more inefficient if there are more impurities in the EPS material. So one of the biggest issues is to set up a collection system which works properly, which works efficient, and makes it possible to provide the EPS, in this case the packaging EPS, with high quality in order to be able to bring it back to the recycling and in the next step the EPS production. The construction side faces different other challenges. For example, as you can see here, the EPS processing, and here on the construction side, we have different impurities which can occur. Also the same topic, basically, as I mentioned before, the glue anchors for the mounting, armor rings, for example, and also an efficient collection system for the future, which makes it possible to collect the cutoffs at the construction site in an efficient way, because the same topic, we have 89% air, and if you don't find a proper logistic solution to collect those cutoffs in an efficient way, it will get pretty difficult. But as I mentioned, we are really optimistic to find solutions in this case as well. And last but not least, the deconstruction side again. Here we have a big topic to overcome with the demolition itself, to find technologies to make this process efficient, more efficient. Currently, you have different steps. In the first step, the facade needs to be stripped, so you have to put down the facade and the armoring from the EPS. In the next step, you see this process I've described before, and then you have this HPCD topic again, so the solvent-based recycling process. What I mentioned already is the collection of this deconstruction, demolition waste. Currently, it's not always done as I showed you in this container. It comes into mixed containers, and if it's in this container, then we face the problem that it's not economically doable to sort the EPS from the container and from the other fractions out from this container. And in the preparation for the recycling, as you can see in the small picture, you have the armor ring, you have an anchor. It's really important to separate the EPS from anchors, from armor rings, because otherwise the pierce loop process, the Greer-Solve process, is not able to work in an efficient way, and therefore the solvent-based recycling gets more and more difficult. Okay, so let me come to a short summary and the outlook. What are the main topics we will tackle within the next month and years in our project? As I mentioned, it's really important to develop suitable technologies for each process string to come over these improvised solutions, combined with organizational solutions, which means building up efficient and sustainable logistic concept for the collection, the transport of the EPS towards the right consumers in a circular economy. And a big challenge also in combination with the first 2 points is the economic one, which means we need to develop concepts which are economically realizable. And this is, I guess, this is one of the most challenging points, but we are also motivated to bring our issues to the politicians in Austria and also in Europe, because we need support in this case, definitely to come towards a circular economy for EPS. What we see especially in the end consumer market is the social aspects. in the example in Upper Austria, for example, we see we have 180 collection points. In Vienna, for example, we have just a few collection points, and I would say almost everybody puts the EPS in the residual waste, and from this time on, it's gone. So this is we can develop new solutions in the project, technologies, organizational solutions, but it's really important to bring it into the mindset of us all, not to throw EPS in the residual waste, but to collect it separated. Yeah, and at least last, the legal and the normative issues in terms of adapting standards and yeah, legislation. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much, Karl. Very interesting to see how many challenges there are still, even though it is a best practice example. So now I would like to join the panelists and me on the panel, please, so that everyone takes a seat. I think that the badges are there, and then we go on with the discussion. So, yes. So maybe to start with Cyrus, because Cyrus was silent and he enjoyed the presentations for sure. Cyrus, we had recently a talk about the election system in Malta, and I know you're continuously campaigning. Since we are always in contact with your constituency, what would you say? How much are the people even aware how important separate collection and sorting actually is, and especially when it comes to EPS? I know that you are concerned about all kinds of waste, but of course today our focus is on EPS. Do people even know in Malta at home that fish boxes, which is a big market there, are 100% recyclable if they collect it correctly?
Okay, I think this works now. So first of all, thank you for this invitation, and thank you to all the speakers. It was very interesting to listen to experts in the field to see exactly how they are working and what their needs are, because for us legislators then in the European Parliament and elsewhere, this is very important information to be able to form our ideas and then to move forward with important legislation. In fact, at the moment, I'm working on the waste shipment regulation, and definitely from what I have heard today and from the various talks that we have had also in the past, it is clearer what needs to be done, even when it comes not only to EPS waste, I believe, but on waste in general. So for the citizens in general, while I think that they are very much informed on the importance of waste separation and recycling, and I'm sure that everyone knows about it, I'm not too sure on how many of them, and it can also be seen from the figures that I've seen today, how many of them are actually separating their waste at home. And there are various difficulties that they speak of, especially when it comes to waste collection, and sometimes not understanding what goes into which bag. But that is, I think, the general feeling out there. But if I may, and I'll go a bit further away from this question, even given the current what the speakers said today, I think that's one of the most important issues that we have and that we need to tackle at source. And this is what I'm seeing as well from our work on the waste shipment regulation, is the fact that we need more harmonization within the European Union when it comes to waste. First of all, let's, and I'm doing this as well now, maybe we should stop speaking about waste and start speaking about resources, because I think all waste is a resource, and we really need to make sure that we do see it that way as legislators, but not only us, but that it is seen as a resource also with our citizens, who should have that paradigm shift, let's say, when we tackle this issue. But then apart from harmonization, which is very much important, especially when it comes to shipment of these resources, so let's call them resources, I think one of the major issues that we also have at this moment in time, and I'm not sure whether I'll be jumping onto other questions that you might have had, but I think that one of the most important things, and this is what my group is fighting for and pushing very hard for when it comes to the waste shipment regulation, is to stop the export of plastics, ban total export of plastics outside of the European Union. Now, I know that the Commission has not come up with this proposal in the waste shipment regulation, but we wanted it to be more ambitious. And we want this to be more ambitious, not only, basically, it's maybe Malta is a bit of a high for hunters. So we say we hit two birds with one stone, which might not be that environmental and not very nice for biodiversity. But from one end, we cannot end up dumping our waste in developing countries. But secondly, it is important to keep those resources in our own continent and use them ourselves, because at the end of the day, none of us would be dumping gold in developing countries, although we should give a little bit more gold to developing countries as well, but we would not dump it. So I think that is something what we need to consider.
So just to jump on that, actually, so would you agree that preventing resources from leaving the EU has to go hand in hand with facilitating recycling in the EU?
Yes, definitely it is something that goes hand in hand and should be seen in one holistic way. Because as I said, we cannot end up dumping waste in developing countries. I would say we shouldn't even have waste being exported to OECD countries that do not have the same standards that we do here in the European Union. So that is also another issue. But I believe that there are certain legal problems or challenges that the Commission might be seeing here when it comes to OECD countries because of the Basel Convention. But at the end of the day, I think that as politicians, we need to take very bold stands on this, because what is currently happening, I believe, is unacceptable. Once we have waste that is, let's say, sorted by citizens, by businesses, we need to make sure that that waste is used as a resource within the European Union as much as possible. And if it is exported outside, it is because it is going to be used anyway. And I think that that is very important. But yes, both go together hand in hand.
Thank you very much. And this brings me to the next institution, law. Now it's up to you. So what can the Commission do, or what will the Commission do? Because you have seen, and I promise you, this comes back to you, Cyrus, I promise our industry is very keen on having all the EPS that is on the market back. And if we could, we would have 100% recycling rate for all the things, because it's a very valuable resource. So Law, what has the Commission, and also what you have seen from the challenges that even Carl faces in his project, what has the Commission in mind to improve the separate collection and the sorting of waste and also EPS waste?
That's a good question, Jürgen. As you know, in Europe, in the single market, when it comes to deciding on waste management, this is something which is very much shared between the national level and very often even the local level and the European level. So I think a first point to reply to your question is whatever we do, we need to really well articulate these different levels. And that requires all this cooperation, all this partnership that, for example, the Circular Plastics Alliance has been trying to create. Now, I think this is not exactly the reply you were looking for. You were willing to know a bit about future regulation. Well, you have already the plastics own contribution.
May I come in on that?
Yes.
Because we all appreciate the work that the CPA is doing, and we are a committed member since 2019 there. So meaning we are doing everything that we can, as you have seen also when it comes to the figures that Mr. Linda kindly presented. How do you see the interplay between the voluntary work that we are doing in the CPA and the regulation that might be upfront?
Yes. So you know, it's not a mailbox, huh? So you know that there are rules at European level. When you discuss a future regulation, there are rules to ensure the process is entirely democratic. And so you have to be registered as an expert group, which is not the case of the Circular Plastics Alliance, which is also why it has remained flexible and maybe agile. At the same time, my personal view here is that when there is a good solution that the industry can agree on and pilot and experiment in a voluntary alliance, that is maybe valid for EPS, but maybe also working for other plastic materials, or that is maybe valid for packaging or for construction, but also working for other sectors like electronics or automotive. So when the industry is able to work together, come up with a solution that is scalable and that works, my personal view or my personal experience so far is that the legislators will tend to jump on it. So, or to maybe not jump, maybe that was a bit too strong word, but will tend to be willing to build on it. And this is always what I have heard. So yeah.
I hope I'm not misinterpreting you, but do I read between the lines that we have the full support of DG Grow when it comes, because we are an industry of SMEs. So, I mean, we are representing only 80,000 employees, and we are really local. We are keeping our jobs locally. So it would be really nice to have a commitment from DG Grow, because you know that other DGs are more critical than DG Grow to us. So it would be really nice to hear from you. What do you see? What can DG Grow and we together do to convince also the other stakeholders that in the legislative process are there? And how will you support us there?
That's because I'm not quite sure whether you're referring to some national measures.
It's European measures, but because there legislation upcoming, and there will always be legislation upcoming. So for the national level, I mean, also we know that the Commission has certain leverages where they can push for harmonization, and I think we heard today how important that is. It's crucial in several things. I think what Carl also mentioned when it comes to the construction, and you know very well that we will have a design for recycling for construction material that will be coming up. So how do you see the European Commission or DG Grow in particular? How do you partner up with the plastics industry to keep us, the local SMEs, on the market? And where do you see chances for DG Grow to help our industry as well?
Okay, sorry. So now I think I better understand the question. Well, so sorry for that. So I think the reply to your question is very much around a bit what I said around solutions that work and that are scalable and that, you know, that can proactively be discussed with the legislators as a solution to policy considerations that will not just go away. But at the same time, it's also about facts and figures about impact. What does it take? And this is something I personally appreciated a lot in the work with the Circular Plastics Alliance. It was to show what does it take to reach a target? How many investments? How many capacities? What does it mean in terms of yes, investments, capacities, or as you mentioned, Jürgen, in terms of jobs, and where is the functionality? So the technical, the economic analysis, and the industrial perspective is really what I think matters.
Thank you. So I'll give the word now. I have a question for Sven, because he was in charge and he was in the lead together with me and the outreach program that we are currently running to the European Commission and to the MEPs. Sven, what are your takeaways when it comes to talking to politicians, lawmakers, and other stakeholders? What did you see? How were the reactions?
that one works. Yeah, perfect. To me, it was quite interesting, very interesting, because the reaction was in most of the cases very positive. Yeah, and even though in cases where I didn't expect it in the beginning, yeah, maybe from groups in the parliament that are not that, I would say, plastic friendly. Yeah, and that was very surprising to see, because if you are able to educate people and showing the true advantages that our product has in different kinds of application, then you can convince also. Yeah? And this is also a clear takeaway to me, and I think for us as well. Also a clear way forward to pursue this kind of outreach, because I think we are all convinced that it pays off. Yeah, and to build up also a network. Yeah, not only a network within the industry. And I think that's why we are all here and glad that we can interact, but also build up networks towards other stakeholders, external stakeholders, such as the Commission and the Parliament.
I think you recently also reached out to the extended producibility responsibility organizations, right? And how is your feeling on that, and how did it work there?
Yeah, they're also a very important stakeholder, a gatekeeper, because pros get more and more influential and important when it comes to collecting and sorting. Yeah, and I'm very glad to report that in some countries there has really been a paradigm shift. Yeah, in Sweden, for example, where now EPS household is collected separately. I think these are all very important steps towards a circular economy, and also that prove, yeah, in reality that EPS is not only recyclable but truly recycled. And that's very important.
This brings me to you, Carl. You showed us so many facts about your really ambitious project. What do you consider still what are the stepping stones? What are the hurdles that you have?
As I mentioned, I think one focus is on the technologies in order to come to the point to do the separation, the sorting in an efficient manner, to build the basis for the recycling in the last step. This is a really important point, I would say, in the project, and also the other stakeholders outside the project. As I mentioned, the social factor, the legal factor. There are so many topics which need to be brought to us as end consumers. Maybe not us in this room, but many other end consumers outside in the European Union, to build an understanding for EPS additives for glass, for example. Everyone knows how glass circular economy is working. So you have the container, you put the glass in it, and you know it makes sense because you get new bottles of glass in the next or the step afterwards. For EPS, I don't know if it's that in common that people know about the possible solutions in the recycling.
Maybe Cyrus, there you could come in, and what do you see on the ground? Like how do people react? And when you talk about sorting of different waste fractions, how do they react? I mean, in Malta, it's a small country, but still, I mean, there the waste should be, the resources should be rather concentrated and easy to collect. How is it going there? And also I'm coming because it's a political issue. How do you see the education playing in there? Because you should start to educate even children. I remember in the 1990s, I'm a 90s kid, so I'm also getting old, but we started to get education about the separation of waste at school. How is it going in Malta there, and how do you see the future there?
You're making me feel very old now because I'm an 80s kid. But apart from that, I think when it comes to my country, unfortunately, we've had a very bad history when it comes to waste separation, which is now changing. In the past 9 years, we're seeing a shift. Unfortunately, till a few years ago, we're last in the list when it comes to all of the European Union, when it comes to recycling. So literally the bottom. Before us, I think there was Croatia, and then everyone is on top of us. But that is now changing, and I think it will change rapidly in the next 5 years. That said, yes, education I think is key, and that is very important. But if I could once again, I'll go to something that Sven said when he spoke of non-plastic friendly parties or political groups. I think that if I may, I think that we should all be not plastic friendly in reality. So when it comes to the excessive use of plastic or unneeded use of plastic, I think that is where we need to really fight single use, etc., and non-recyclable plastics. But then we also need to be very realistic and know that we still need packaging. Now, and I really like the slogan "Smart Packaging Europe" because I think everything revolves around the word smart. And I think that when we look at the future, we need to be very smart at the way that we use packaging and at the way we use plastics if we need to use them. And I think that that is what really needs to happen. And that is what I bring with me within my non-plastic friendly political group. And I would say that I am not plastic friendly myself. If you talk to my staff in the office, everyone would say, he's the biggest campaigner against plastic, and that is true. But at the same time, I saw, I think Carl had in one of the pictures there were ice creams, and you had the EPS containers with ice cream. I mean, at the end of the day, and I had a meeting yesterday on this, people will continue to eat ice cream, especially in weather like we have today. And so what we need to do is to find ways and means, firstly, to have that packaging of that ice cream, which is much more smart and recyclable and used by already used material, but then move over from there and see that that packaging would then be recaptured for its recyclability and reuse. And I think that is a real circular economy. And I think that is where we need to go. And maybe absolutism is bad on both ends. We need to find solutions to make this work.
I think our industry and we are on common grounds when we say we do not support excessive packaging. However, we see that every polymer that is on the market has a right to be on the market because it's used in the best way it could be used. At least this is what we are aiming for. We see
could still reduce.
Pardon?
We could still reduce, I believe.
So yes, now I'm coming again to you, maybe Carl. Do you have any wish, since there are two legislators here and two representatives, what would you, because you have the experience from the ground, if you have a wish list, what would you put out now to the Commission and to the European Parliament when it comes how to improve the EPS and how to facilitate EPS recycling and especially collection?
I think there are pretty different views on this topic. On the one hand, as I mentioned, the end consumer view, which could be tackled with large campaignings to gain more insights about the recycling possibilities, to build the awareness, so the end user view, but also going into the legal aspects. For example, we face a topic currently for polystyrene with the key numbers in the waste. We are not able to get the full transparency because we just have one key number for polystyrene, which isn't separated in expanded polystyrene or extruded polystyrene, and therefore it gets kind of intransparent for us in the analysis phase. So I guess there will a few more points occur within the project, which would need the support from the politicians, from the local authorities in Austria, but also on the European sector within the European Union.
Lord, this brings me to you. What will the Commission do? Because we heard just from him and also throughout all the presentations that transparency is key. What has the Commission, what is a plan for the Commission to increase and improve the transparency for the flow of waste in general and plastics in particular?
So you want more reporting?
I did not say that. I was thinking, what has the Commission, what are the plans of the Commission? Or what do you imagine could happen?
Yes, that's a good question. I think for your industry, what is probably the most important topic that will soon be final, I think, is really the packaging legislation, the new packaging legislation. How will you report about the recyclability and or the recycled content in packaging products? So probably in terms of regulatory affairs, that is where I would see the most important element coming. Now, transparency on the market is not only this type of reporting to legislators. I think, for example, European standards on the quality of sorted waste, on the quality of recycled plastics can really improve a lot transparency. So you may not know exactly, if you know better, if you have a European standards on the quality of the sorted waste that you buy, with some quality grades, it may improve also the functioning of the market irrespective of regulation. This is not an area which, to my knowledge, is planned to be regulated.
So now one last but one question before I will conclude with Cyrus. But I know, Sven, you have participated in the workshops for the revision of the Packaging and Packaging Waste Directive, which is upcoming. Can you maybe already predict a little bit where the train goes to?
Yeah, it's a little bit difficult and hard to tell at the moment, because we are waiting for a proposal, because the whole process has been delayed. It was initially planned to have a proposal, legislative proposal in July. It will now come in the fourth quarter in autumn. I mean, there are some touch points, and you already mentioned some of them, but the overall package also for the industry is not very clear at this moment in time. Yeah, I think it's really clear that there are touch points regarding reuse, for example, of course, recyclability and the uptake of recycled content. And I think these are three main pillars, but the concrete measures in that regulation are not so clear so far, and this has not changed at the moment. Yeah, I think they're different. I think for EPS packaging, we can say reuse. Yeah, look at the applications, for example. When you look at white goods, for example, reuse is not economically and ecologically worthwhile. Yeah, I think it's better to do recycling and set up recycling projects and recycle the material compared to reuse it. And for the others in that case, in that specific case, and we will see. I think maybe we have a little bit more time, and maybe when we come here next time and present new figures from Converser, maybe recycling rates are even higher. That would be very good. But yeah.
Laura indicated she has to say a word.
Yes, just very quick, because it liaises with what Sven just said. You asked, how can also an industry contribute to shape the change, and later on maybe it can be taken up by policymakers. I think a good example is still this standardization request that we are, if everything goes well, going to issue to European standardization organizations even before we will propose a new packaging legislation at the Commission. So where the industry has the opportunity to agree on standards for recyclability of packaging, if everything goes well, with the mandate of the Commission. So which means that we want to monitor what is going on, and we are ready to cooperate, to guide, to discuss. And so I think that's an important work where industry experts can get involved. It takes to go to your standardization bodies, of course. I think Jürgen knows, I see Jürgen over there from BASF, he knows a lot about it. But this is a typical way where you can contribute. And when there is a very good standard in place, my personal experience is that there is no reason why it would be put into question by the legislators. It's not a guarantee, of course, but it's.
This brings me to Cyrus, to you again, since we started up with you. Have you already, I mean, the European Parliament and the entire parliamentarians, they have a lot of things to do with the Fit for 55 package. Have already the internal talks on the packaging waste directive revision already started? And if so, have you gained already some insights?
Not really. I think we are currently focusing on the Fit for 55 package, especially after what happened during the last plenary, where we, as a group, especially us, we wanted to have a much more ambitious piece of legislation. And I think that we're arriving at that. So we'll see that during the next mini plenary next week. That will be interesting. When we were discussing issues relating to the waste shipment regulation, obviously over there, we did discuss and started brainstorming a bit about the packaging and waste packaging directive and others. And I think that that is where our next focus will go into. Obviously, once you're meeting stakeholders, NGOs, any person who's interested or organization that is interested in this topic, you would obviously discuss everything with those organizations. So the discussion has started. Once we, at least from my offices, and once we finish on the waste shipment regulation, or at least when the proposal then comes out, we will shift onto any proposal that would be coming forward from the Commission.
Okay, thank you. I know we are already running a little bit late, but still I want to ask the ambience. Maybe some of you have some questions to our speakers. So please go ahead, raise your hand. Bernhard, please.
Hello, Bernhard Merks here today on behalf of EUPC, but some of you know that I have a long background also in plastic recycling. I was already recycling polystyrene in the 80s. There is a law since 2008 called landfill ban, which today, 2022, is still not implemented in most than half of the European member states. If I see that half of the EPS, which is potentially for them input for their resources, is still going to landfill, is it about time? And then I look at the Parliament to raise the questions to the Commission. When are they going to implement? Then the second one is the other half of the potential input stream for them to recycle is going to incineration, where we know that all the member states subsidize incineration. The industry has called for years and years and years to the politicians to take stands on stopping subsidies on a national level and implement a landfill ban. It's not happening. So what do you expect then for the industry to do? Maybe first to you, to the Parliament.
Well, as Parliament, I would move on the question to the Commission.
And that's exactly what happened the last 15, 20 years. So, and I know law can't answer that because it is a more generic Commission issue. But,
yeah, I mean, laws are clear, and I think that when member states go against those laws, then the Commission should take action with regards to infringements.
But they're not doing that. I've asked Prince Frans Timmermans already 4 or 5 years ago, and he said, "Yeah, I'm frustrated as well, but that doesn't help." And if you want industry to invest into more circularity, we need long-term vision. And long-term vision means clarity on if today already a legislation of 2008 is not implemented by 2022, we have the same issues on food contact legislation, which has been over the market for the last 15 years. How do you want recycling industry? How do you want converters to invest into circularity?
I feel that frustration.
That's not a frustration. It's a simple fact. We can talk.
Yes.
We can talk in 100 of those programs.
Yeah.
There are a few things the legislator has to do.
Yes,
and then industry, working very close together with the industry, of course, there's no problem. And then industry will move. Now we're just waiting. Who's going to act first?
As I was going to say, I feel the frustration in the sense that it is happening a number of times where, and I'm going to maybe shift onto something else which has nothing to do with waste or recyclability, etc. But if you see what's happening currently in the European Parliament with regards to the Commission on the motion for censure of the current Commission for not taking action on Poland, for instance, you'd see the frustration that the Parliament has at the moment with the European Commission. And I think that when the Commission is not being the guarantor of the treaties and of the laws that we would have enacted, then that is a big challenge. And that is why, as a European Parliament, we continuously ask questions. We write letters. We do push for the Commission to take action on a number of on a number of issues. Then the ultimate is a motion of censure. Now, I haven't signed the letter myself, or the current move that there is in the European Parliament to censure the current Commission. However, when asked with such questions, and when you see citizens, industry, non-governmental organizations pushing for answers, I'm afraid that one of the only answers that I can give is that we really need to put more pressure on the Commission. I'm sorry to the representative of the Commission here. It's not a direct, obviously, attack.
No, that's certainly interesting, and Bernard, certainly, I would also need to get a bit more background on this landfilling ban from my colleagues to understand what in this specific instance, and we're going back to what I said before around technical analysis, economic analysis, what has happened here? That would be my question. Is it that when it was time to adopt some infringement decisions, there was a realization that there is something that is not doable, or what is really the issue? Is it economic? Is it technical? Is it political? I would like to know a bit more. And this brings me, of course, to the idea that you can have some, you can have something black on white in a legislation if it's not something where you have also ownership by all stakeholders on the ground and something that people can really live with and accept. You have these risks of non-implementation. I would hope the Commission would be so powerful that it could make everybody implement it overnight. But I guess it's also about building a partnership with people on the ground and understanding what are the levers and what are the solutions. Again, I don't know the specific reasons here, but maybe you do.
I have probably last question. I'm coming back to Mr. Engerer, where he said, okay, that's not waste, it's raw material. But I can tell you, the devil is in the detail. And when we are talking about certain countries, you ship a box to a customer with a normal transport. When you take it back because it's used or it's broken, it's waste. You need a special regulations. You need somebody who ship it back with as a license. So with that, the shipment is just because there are not so many transporters who have these license, and so there are a lot of things where we have to talk about. It's also when you take something back, you need to have a regulation, or you have a certificate that you are a recycler. So you need to go through hoops. So you are always great in saying, you need to do this, you need to do this, we need to reach these targets. But the devil is in the detail, and just make it more efficient. Like Mr. Ott said, we need efficiency to make this work. So we can do it on technical, the technical solutions are there. We are doing it, we are getting more efficient. But I can tell you from the regulators, I don't see any efficiency. It's getting more and more inefficient. And this somehow we need to tackle in addition. Thank you.
I agree with you. In fact, if I go back to what I said at the very beginning, was that while we need to, I believe, ban a number of exports outside of the European Union, but then we need to also make intra-European Union exports or movement of waste or resources much more easier, because the current situation is ending up as, and with the current costs all the time rising, we cannot have an additional cost on those that work in the sector to recycle material that would make it sometimes much more worth it not to actually do this. And I think that that is something that we need to fight, because harmonization would help in that sense, because having different procedures in different member states is already a cost in itself.
But not harmonization on the worst level. Eh?
No, but then we need to also make, obviously, shipments, let's say, or movement of waste and resources within the European Union much more easy in order to reduce those costs and make it valuable. And I think that that is where we need to go.
I can tell you that the problem starts with the definition: what is a resource and what is waste. When you define it as a waste, you are in a regulatory nightmare. So you try to define it as long as it's possible as a resource. But where you make the cut, and that's tricky. Depends on who looks at it. All right.
I can just promise we will do our best to transport all these questions to the Commission and the Parliament from EUMEPS. So, and I think since we are really running late a little bit, it's just the concluding remarks that I would one more time thank all of you for coming here today. Especially, I would like to thank our staff and the staff from Instinctive who have made this event possible today. It was really my pleasure to host all of you, and I hope to see you all very soon at other occasions. There are still some refreshments afterwards. I think that they just opened the bar again, so feel free. It's a rather warm day today. Feel free to enjoy some more drinks and maybe mingle and chit chat together. It was a pleasure all having you, and have a very nice day, and take care, everyone.